Good evening. Welcome to the celebration of hope. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us tonight. My name is Gayatri Ramprasad. I'm the founder and president of Asha International. Asha literally means hope in Sanskrit, one of the world's most ancient languages that originated in my home country, India. And in English, Asha is an acronym for a source of hope for all. So welcome to Asha International Celebration of Hope. Like many people around the world, I grew up in a family where we did not talk about mental illness, and we certainly did not know the importance of mental health. As an 18-year-old girl growing up in Bangalore, India, I was excited that I would make my dad's dream of becoming a doctor come true. But my world was shattered when I failed in math. Weeks later, I learned that a boy in my class had bribed the registrar to make me fail. Revenge, he said, for me not wanting to be his girlfriend. And he threatened to rape me every day I went to school. That was the beginning of my panic attacks. Back then, I did not know those words. All I knew was that my heart would pound and my thoughts would race. I'd be gasping for breath, dizzy, disoriented. I literally thought I was going to die. Ignorant about mental health issues, my parents and physicians did not understand my struggles. Having no words in my culture to even conceptualize my suffering, I became convinced that I was going crazy. And I hid behind a facade of normalcy as my world began to crumble. Over the next decade, I married and moved to the US, right here to Portland, Oregon, gave birth to our beautiful little girl, and struggled with severe postpartum depression and suicidal ideation. My life eventually became a blur of doctor visits, medications, hospitalizations, shock treatments, and failed suicide attempts. And during a visit home to India, a priest who was invited to exorcise the demons in me molested me. It was incredibly traumatic, as you can imagine. And yet again, after another failed suicide attempt, I finally chose to get hospitalized. And I was traumatized when I was confined in the seclusion room of the psychiatric ward at OHSU's twice within 10 days, and lost the pregnancy in between. It is there in that dark pit of despair that a stranger came to visit me and gave me the gift of hope that changed my life forever. Her name was Aida. Aida was my husband's boss, Ralph's mother-in-law's friend. She was visiting Ralph and his wife, Karen, and had overheard my struggles with depression and my latest suicide attempt and hospitalization, and had insisted on coming to meet me. But in the short time that Aida shared with me, holding me in her arms and sharing her story, she gave me the gift of hope that has changed my life forever. It is in those few minutes that she shared not only just her her struggles with depression, but her relentless pursuit of recovery, that hope was born. And for the first time in my life, I believed that I wasn't alone. I believed that, like Aida, perhaps I could also recover one day. In those few moments, she taught me the power of stories to give hope and change lives. Over the last 3 decades, despite recurrent bouts of depression and suicidal ideation, Aida's story has inspired me and given me the courage and strength to recover and rebuild a beautiful, healthy, meaningful, productive life. And her random act of kindness taught me the power of stories to give hope and change lives. When I started Asha International, I had a simple wish: to share my story with just one person, much like Aida had, to give them hope, to let them know that they're not alone, that there's nothing that they should be afraid or ashamed of, that mental health conditions are health conditions, that they too would recover, that they too would thrive again. But never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined that I would one day be here standing in front of you with all of you this evening, having had the privilege of sharing our stories, not just my story, the stories of other storytellers through Asha International, and having reached more than 55,000 people, not just here across the US, but around the world. And we are so grateful for every moment of that journey. Together, we are shining a light on mental health and ending stigma and empowering people on their road to recovery and well-being. One day, one person, one story at a time. Together, we are paying Aida's gift of hope forward. We have accomplished a lot over the last 13 years, but there's much work to do. And that's really why we are here today, all of us this evening, to address the mental health crisis impacting our children, our families, and our communities. According to the World Health Organization, give me just a moment, please. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 4 of us will struggle with a mental health condition in our lifetimes. Here in the US, 1 in 5 of us is going to struggle with a mental health condition, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. Unfortunately, nearly 50% of adults and almost 80% of children and adolescents that are struggling with a mental health condition will not find the care that they need. In a recent report by Mental Health America, our home state, Oregon, was ranked 51st, indicating that we have one of the highest incidents of mental illness and the lowest rates of access to care in our state. We have to change it. When left untreated, mental health conditions can lead to failure at school and work, family conflicts, substance use, violence, juvenile and criminal justice involvement, homelessness, and even suicide. Every 40 seconds, a person loses their life to suicide around the world. According to the Centers for Disease Control here in the US, suicide rates are spiking in the last decade. Suicide rates among those aged 10 to 19 years old rose 56% between 2007 and 2016, with a greater increase for females than males. That's an increase of 56% in the rate of suicides in just a decade. In Oregon, suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for children 5 to 14. It is heartbreaking. With early intervention and comprehensive care, most people struggling with a mental health condition can recover and thrive. But the stigma and shame surrounding mental health conditions, complicated with access to care or lack of access to care, is preventing most people from seeking care. We know that mental health is integral to our well-being and the well-being of our global economy. A new Lancet Commission report on mental health mentioned that mental disorders are on the rise in every country around the world. And it will cost the global economy $16 trillion by 2020. The economic cost is primarily due to the early onset of mental illness and lost productivity, with an estimated of 12 billion working days lost due to mental illness every year. Unfortunately, our jails have become our de facto mental health asylums. Dear friends, please stand up if mental health conditions have impacted you or someone you love. Please remain standing. Please stand up if you've lost a loved one, a family member, or a colleague to suicide. Please remain standing. Look around. You are not alone. None of us are alone. And there's much we can do together. Please sit down. All of us know someone who's struggling with a mental health condition, a family member, a friend, a colleague. Yet many of us find it difficult to talk about mental health. But the time is now for us to break the silence and start the conversation. The time is now for us to share our stories, to normalize conversations about mental health in our homes, in our schools, at our workplaces, and in our communities. Talking about mental health is the first step to end the stigma and shame surrounding mental health conditions and to create a safe environment where those people that are struggling, people like me, can actually find the courage and the love that we need to go seek the help that we need. Talking about mental health is critical to advocating for changes in public policies, to ensure access to housing, healthcare, education, and employment for people living with mental health conditions. And talking about mental health is essential to change the culture surrounding mental health and building communities of hope and empathy and inclusion where all of us can thrive. I invite all of you to join us at ASHA International and let us create the change we want to see in our communities. I am thrilled to share that 2019 has been the most impactful year in our history. We presented 35 events and reached nearly 2,500 people through our programs right here in our community. I want to share just a few highlights. We tripled our outreach of our Let's Talk About Mental Health program to high school students, parents, and teachers. We launched 3 My Story, My Superpower high school clubs, presented our second annual storytelling show and the Grit and Grace conference, and offered 4 continuing legal education trainings. I'd like to provide you a brief insight into our programs now. The Let's Talk About Mental Health program is a peer-to-peer interactive mental health education program to engage high school students in a conversation about mental health and well-being. Our goal is to empower students to take charge of their mental health and prevent suicides. Nearly 100% of the students who have participated in the program recommend the program to be presented in all middle schools and high schools. With your help, we can do it. Hope you had the opportunity to read some of the thank you notes that were out in the foyer, and if you haven't, please take a moment during dinner or at the end of the program. Every time I read those thank you notes from the students, I am energized to continue on my mission. In order for us to scale and sustain our outreach to schools, we no longer could just do the work that we were doing with the small team of storytellers that we had. And so we started inviting students during these Let's Talk About Mental Health programs to say, hey, if you're inspired by these storytellers, do you want to join us? Do you want to become the storytellers and inspire others and give hope? And so this year, this fall, we are launching 3 My Story, My Superpower clubs at high schools, one at Glencoe, one at Westview, and one at Sunset. And nearly 50 students have signed up to become the storytellers and carry our mission forward. And I could not be more happy. Yeah. According to the report Counter N, published by the Women's Foundation of Oregon, nearly half of Oregon's women and girls have experienced childhood trauma, such as abuse or neglect. And Oregon women have the highest incidence of reported depression in the country. So on September 27th, we presented our second annual Grit and Grace Multicultural Women's Mental Health Conference to inspire, educate, and empower women to take charge of their mental health and well-being. At ASHA International, we believe that when we empower women, they will empower their families and their communities. On May 29th, we presented our first annual My Story, My Superpower storytelling show to shine a light on mental health and end stigma, one story at a time. We mentored a team of 10 brand new storytellers ranging in age from 15 to the teens to the 60s, including a high school student, a veteran, an attorney, and a psychiatrist. It was an inspiring event, an evening of laughter, tears, and breaking down stereotypes. We are most grateful for our storytellers. Once trained, our storytellers share their stories to create the change that they want to see within their professional, personal, and general communities at large. For example, Lawyers are 3.6 times more likely to suffer from depression than non-lawyers, according to the American Psychological Association. And according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's latest available data on suicide deaths by profession, lawyers ranked fourth behind dentists, pharmacists, and physicians. Our board member and storyteller, John Boylston, wants to change that. He created and presented CLEs, continuing legal education programs, and reached 56 attorneys in just the last few months. And he's scheduled to present another CLE in November and working on presenting at a large firm's annual associates retreat in June 2020. And he also raised $1,500 in donations to support our programs. So thank you, John. If you're there, just raise your hands. Thank you. We've accomplished a lot this year and are most grateful to our community of sponsors, donors, and volunteers for their valuable support in making all of our programs and events possible. Thanks to our dedicated board for their stewardship, and my deepest gratitude to every one of our storytellers for their incredible courage and vulnerability. Will all the storytellers, not all of them are here this evening, but every single storyteller that's here with us, please stand up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to share our financials in brief. For those of you that are interested in looking at our annual report, all of our annual reports are available on our website, and we invite you to read them. I just want to share just a couple highlights. First of all, we take great pride in how deeply grateful we are to every dollar that our sponsors and our donors invest in us. And we are so happy to share that 93 cents of every dollar is invested in our programs, right here in our community. Thank you. We're happy to share that we were awarded the Gold Seal of Transparency by GuideStar, a leading agency that connects donors and grant makers to nonprofit organizations. Dear friends, every one of us has a story. My story, your story, our stories can give hope and change the world. It is my pleasure now to honor the community of people who have helped us share our message. Each year, we honor an individual for their exceptional courage and resilience in overcoming mental illness and inspiring others with hope on their journey to recovery and well-being. This year, it is my pleasure, my honor, to bestow Asha International's Hope Bringer Award to Yamini Rajan. Please help me welcome Yamini Rajan. Her name, Yamini, means night. Over the last couple of years, she has helped thousands of people around the world to transform the darkness of despair into the light of hope. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me honor Yamini Rajan with the 2019 Hope Bringer Award.
Thank you. I'm gonna just pull out my speech right here. Okay, so to people who know me, I'm not the best with words, so I wrote something down to help me remember everyone to thank. So to my mom, Mama, thank you for always being my #1 protector. You've been by my side through my darkest moments and guiding me through, but always allowing me to make my own mistakes and become the person I am today. I can never explain how much I love you. To my dad, Uppy, my entire life I've been told I'm just like my dad, and I don't think I've ever received a better compliment. You're my twin, my best friend, and the person I look up to the most. You have taught me in Antara how to be generous, compassionate, and most importantly, independent. I am who I am because of your trust in me. Thank you isn't enough. Antara, you might be my little sister, but anyone who's seen our relationship knows you're the more mature one. You're wiser than anyone your age and have always been my source of advice, even when we were little. You gave me a reason to keep fighting, and I can never thank you enough for that. I'm so unbelievably proud of the person you are and the person you're becoming. Here's to a lifetime of annoying mama together. Miss Traverson, 5 years ago, you quite literally saved my life. Thank you for believing me, for validating me, and for giving me a safe space within your office. I wouldn't be here without you. And finally, thank you, Gayatri. 3 years ago, you changed my life in a way I could have never imagined. You've given me and so many others a platform to take the pain and hurt and create hope and light. I don't think thank you is adequate, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Thank you for being a mentor, an inspiration, and a role model, not just to me, but to everyone in this room. I don't think you understand the impact you have made on me and my family. To everyone here, thank you for being here. I hope today emphasizes the importance of investing in youth mental health because I can confidently say that I would not be who I am today without the adults who took the time, effort, and love to believe in me even when I didn't believe in myself. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Every child needs a hero. Each year, we honor educators and counselors who have been a hero in addressing the mental health needs of their students. This year, Asha International is delighted to honor mental health heroes Tanya Astremi, Kyle Kinsler from Westview High School, and Greg Everson from Stoller Middle School. Please help me welcome Westview student and our own storyteller, Hoda.
Mr. Kinsler unfortunately could not be here tonight, but I know that he's here in spirit, so I want to thank him. He is the teacher who quite literally saved my life. Mr. Kinsler, thank you for being there when no one else was. Thank you for listening when no one else was willing to hear me. Thank you for not giving up on me. You could have easily walked away, but you didn't. A thank you is not enough. I am forever grateful for all the love, care, and support you have shown me throughout the last 2 years. And to Mrs. Stremi, my school counselor, and the person I go to whenever things go south. Thank you for always being there for me at school when I truly need someone to talk to. Thank you for checking in with me every week to make sure that I am okay and for giving me a safe space to rant endless rants every week. And thank you for taking time out of your busy and hectic schedule to be here today. I would not be the person I am today if it weren't for your care and support. You are the reason that I have the strength that I do. Please come up to the stage.
And I want you guys to know that.
No, please speak.
Oh, okay. So I've been a school counselor for 21 years, and Hoda's probably the strongest young lady I've ever had the opportunity to encounter. She doesn't actually fall under my caseload counselor, but we had a special connection one day in some very difficult moments. And ever since then, I'm just proud to be there for her whenever she needs me. And she's way stronger than I am. And I'm blessed to be there for her and to hear her stories and to share my own. So yeah, just thanks for your support, Gayatri. Yeah. Thanks.
You'll have the opportunity, the joy of listening to Hoda's story later after dinner. Thank you, Hoda and Tanya. Please help me welcome back Yamini. She will introduce her teacher, and we'll be delighted to honor him with the Mental Health Hero Award as well.
So 5 years ago, I was a terrified 13-year-old girl who had been forced into Mr. Everson's office by a friend to talk about what she called my issues. I walked in expecting to be judged, expecting nothing to change, and expecting to be told to toughen up. Instead, I was met by acceptance, support, and validation. Mr. Everson, you have given every single student who has passed by your office unconditional support and a person to talk to. I don't think you understand the impact you've made on not just me, but my peers. You allowed us to be ourselves, free of judgment, and provided countless watermelon Jolly Ranchers along the way. Your empathy saved not just my life, but so many others as well. I am so grateful to know you, and no one deserves this recognition more. And please come up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
May I say thank you?
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Good evening. Thank you, Yamini, very much for the honor of having me here tonight and also for letting me be a part of your life. I hope that we'll continue to keep in contact. And when you were giving your speech, you said, when you didn't believe in yourself. And I knew all the time that we were meeting what a wonderful young lady you are and that you would become. And I think you're going to go places, big places. And little sister Antra, I appreciate you too because you used to come to my office more to be silly than anything else. But I remember you were so wise, and I always would tell you that I wish you could stay there and take over my office for me. So I appreciate both of you, and I appreciate the Rajan family for all the support that they gave Yamini, not only in middle school, but thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Every cause needs a champion. Thanks to everyone at KATU and the Kind is Better team for championing youth mental health, not just one day, but all year long, and for helping change perceptions about mental health. This year, ASHA International is delighted to honor KATU and the Kind is Better team with the 2019 Champions of Change Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the team, Yuan Simons, Deborah Knapp, and Genevieve Rayom.
My name is Genevieve, and I just want to say a sincere thank you to Gayatri and to ASHA International. That was the first story, the story that you guys watched that we covered for Kind is Better on ASHA International, and it really gave all of us a glimpse into the power of this organization and what they're able to do, specifically what their youth storytellers are able to do. Kind is Better focuses on youth mental health, and seeing these students in the schools, in the classrooms, talking peer-to-peer so honestly and transparently about their mental illness was truly inspiring. And it aligns right with our mission of Kind is Better, with just sharing stories. So it's been an honor to share ASHA's story over the past 6 to 12 months, and we look forward to sharing more of the amazing things that ASHA's doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, let's give one more round of applause for all of our honorees this evening. We are so grateful to all that they're doing to normalize conversations about mental health and inspire hope and healing, one story at a time. We're going to pause just for a little while in our program so that you can all enjoy your dinner and your conversations with your friends and families at your tables. My board member, Genevieve, wears many hats other than being a part of the KATU team. She also serves on the board of ASHA International. She'll be back after dinner, and she has got a lot of exciting news about our goals for 2020, and you're in for a delightful surprise. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your dinners. I know that they started to clear the plates, so we'll get started here shortly. All right. Thank you all. I hope you guys enjoyed your dinner. It was fabulous. I wanted to also say I hope you guys enjoyed your conversation. I know we had some wonderful conversations at our table talking about mental health, mental illness in our families, with friends. I hope you guys were all able to talk about that important subject as well. Stories connect us and comfort us in a way that is often difficult to otherwise. It allows us to share our struggles, help us know that we're not alone, and also give us hope and help us cope with what we're dealing with. This evening, two ASHA storytellers are going to come up and share their stories. I first want to welcome back to the stage Hoda. She is a senior, as you know, at Westview High School and also an ASHA storyteller. So welcome back, Hoda.
You know how when you're little and you fall and scrape your knee pretty bad, what's one of the first things someone gives you? Totally rhetorical, just answer it in your head. In most cases, an adult hands you a Ziploc bag full of ice and tells you to put it over where it hurts. But why? Why is it that we put ice over where it hurts? Again, rhetorical. To numb the pain. See, even at such a young age, we're taught that the only way to deal with pain is to numb it. And that's what cutting was like for me. Growing up, I never really had a good relationship with my parents. They were never really there for me, so I never felt comfortable talking to them about my feelings. My relationship with my mom was especially toxic. We did not get along at all, and every conversation I had with her turned into an argument. 6th grade is when my relationship with my parents got worse because of what I went through. When I was 12, I was sexually assaulted by a family friend. He was much older and bigger than me, and as a child, I was taught to always respect my elders and that adults are always in charge, so it didn't even occur to me that what he was doing to me was wrong. Not only did he do things to me physically, but he would also say inappropriate things to me verbally. This abuse continued throughout all 3 years of middle school. And at the time, I didn't exactly know or understand what he was doing, but it didn't feel right. And after each time it happened, I felt so dirty. I felt like I was an object that this person was using for pleasure. It started happening more and more frequently that eventually I kind of just accepted it. I started thinking that maybe I deserved it or that something was actually wrong with me. Because I didn't know how to express all the fear, anger, and anxiety I was holding inside of me, I started cutting. And I vividly remember the first time I ever cut myself. I remember coming home from school one day, and I felt like I wanted to cry, but I physically couldn't. And I grabbed a pair of scissors, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel like I need to do this. And I became almost addicted to it instantly. I felt like I finally had control over the pain that I was feeling. I was doing it so often that I didn't truly understand how bad it was until I felt like I desperately needed to do it in the middle of class, to the point where I stole a classmate's pencil sharpener and unscrewed the blade so I can cut myself in the bathroom. I didn't tell anyone I was doing this because I thought I was legitimately the only person on the planet who was doing this to themselves. I didn't realize this at the time, but I was hurting myself on the outside to try to kill what I was feeling on the inside. While cutting was one way to escape my feelings, I thought that suicide would be the permanent solution to make everything stop. My parents didn't find out I was cutting myself until I was hospitalized for a suicide attempt when I was 13. And even then, I couldn't tell my parents the truth about why I did what I did. The abuse was something I just was never able to talk about. Fast forward to high school. The high school that I go to, Westview, is huge, and it felt like a fresh start for me. School became my happy place and my escape from everything else going on at home and in my head. Now, you know things are bad when school becomes your happy place. Things got better. I saw my abuser less frequently, and the abuse for the most part stopped, physically. Some days, all that went through my head was every attack that ever happened, so my anxiety worsened. I started having nightmares of it happening to me over and over again, and I started having really bad panic attacks. During the middle of my sophomore year, I felt like I couldn't keep it in anymore, so I finally told my mom and my brother. They both knew him really well and were both shocked to hear the things that he did to me. My brother didn't know what to say, and my mom actually tried to justify it and defend him. She told me a lot of things that night, but one thing she told me that I'll never forget was, if you ever tell anyone about this, I will never forgive you. My mom continued to talk to him, and it felt like she chose the friendship with her daughter's abuser over the safety of her own daughter. Honestly, though, I didn't really care about what my mom thought, but she made me feel guilty about wanting to get help. So I listened to her, and I didn't say a word to anyone. At this point, I really didn't care whether or not I lived or died. I felt so devalued that I continued to let so many people take advantage of me, even throughout high school. And at school, I felt like I needed to fake everything. So I did. I thought that I was doing such a good job at fooling everyone around me, but in reality, the only person I was fooling was myself. I reached my breaking point right before spring break of my junior year, which seems like ages ago, but it's like 7 months ago. My grades started slipping, and I was no longer able to focus in school. It was very obvious that I wasn't okay, so I sent my teachers a really long email explaining to them that I wasn't in the best place in life and that I just needed more time to catch up on all the work I fell behind on because of all the classes that I had missed. This email caused a lot of teachers to be concerned, and they all talked to me individually, but I assured them that I was okay and that their support meant a lot to me. One teacher in particular reached out to me, and I ended up telling him everything. After talking to him for an hour, I felt like for the first time in my life, someone actually cared enough about me to really check in with me. He didn't know what to say, but the fact that he was just listening to me meant more than anything. Since he's a mandatory reporter, he had no choice but to report what I told him. And he told my counselor, Mrs. Stremme. While I felt really crappy about it in the moment, the support from this teacher alongside my best friend and my counselor is what saved my life. This teacher was the first adult to tell me that what happened to me was not okay and that it wasn't my fault. The day after it was reported, I spent 2 hours talking to my school officer who called my mom to tell her what was going on. She immediately started crying, but not for me, rather for the reputation of my abuser. She confirmed me about it and blamed me for telling people and involving the police. And in that moment, I found that I could not heal from everything if I continued to have a relationship with her, so I decided right then and there to stop talking to her. Not long after that, I started going to counseling. Now, I'm not going to lie, I had a pretty bad first impression of my counselor, but I gave it another try and continued to see her. I knew I couldn't beat this alone, as I have tried and failed in the past. She diagnosed me with depression, PTSD, and generalized anxiety disorder. Now, I'm not a huge person on labels, but when I was diagnosed, I felt like I was finally getting answers as to why I was behaving so differently and why it was so difficult for me to get over everything that happened. One thing she told me that I'll never forget was that your parents were wrong in the way they dealt with the whole situation. My parents were actually wrong. You know how many 17-year-olds dream of hearing that statement? Even though I always believed that, and I really, really did, actually hearing it was so different. As a kid, you're told that your parents love and care about you, but in my case, it's not that my parents didn't care about me, it's that they didn't know how to show it. After everything that happened to me, I was truly ashamed and embarrassed. I felt completely dehumanized and worthless, but the bigger issue was that I kept it to myself. One thing I learned is that if you need help, you need to ask for it. No one will truly know how you are feeling unless you tell them. I also learned that teachers hold a lot more power than they think. For some students, the relationship that they build with a teacher might be the only stable and healthy relationship they have with an adult. I can honestly say that if it weren't for this teacher and my school counselor, I would not be here today. Not only did they change my life, they saved it. When I am feeling weak and exhausted, they remind me of my strength. They listen to me without judgment, and even though they don't know what to say half the time, which I find quite hilarious, just knowing that they support me no matter what is enough to motivate me. Because of them, I have been and still am an active member of student government. I'm an ASB at my school. I'm a member of National Honor Society, and I have a high and stable GPA. Becoming a Thank you. Becoming a storyteller for Asha has been extremely empowering for me, and I am extremely grateful that I found this organization. Since becoming a storyteller, I feel like I have become a happier and stronger person. Sharing my story has also helped me process a lot of the trauma that I've been through. With the help of Asha, I was able to start a club at my school called My Story, My Superpower, dedicated to helping students normalize the conversation around mental health. So far, and this is only the start, 27 students have signed up for the club. And it is honestly amazing to see these young adults taking action on such a crucial topic. I can already see the change happening in my community, and it is all thanks to Asha. Investing in youth mental health will help students like me and the thousands of other children and teens that are struggling in silence find their voice. With your help, we can finally eliminate the stigma around mental health and make it so that no one is ashamed to ask for help again. And finally, I want to thank Gayatri. I never thought that I would have made it this far in such a small period of time. When I first heard of Asha, I never would have thought that I would be standing in front of all of you today sharing my life story and my deepest, darkest secrets. Asha has shown me my strength and the impact I can have on my own community. It is because of adults like my teacher, Mr. Kinsler, my counselor, Mrs. Stremi, Gayatri, and all of you guys that people like me have the courage to ask for help. I was able to see that there are actually people in this world who truly love and care about me. Thank you all so much for being here to support this amazing cause and for investing in youth mental health.
Wow. Thank you, Hoda. As Hoda just said, all it takes is one person to listen, to believe in your story, to help you get the support you need. So I encourage everyone in this room, I know there are many of you, to be that person and to be that hope. I want to now welcome Hannah to the stage. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Hannah before. She is a senior at Glencoe High School and also one of our Asha storytellers. Welcome, Hannah.
Good evening. I have to lower this microphone a little bit. So as Genevieve said, first of all, thank you for introducing me. My name's Hannah, and some of you may recognize me from speaking in front of you 2 years ago. When I first got involved with Asha, I was a sophomore in high school. I was so nervous to get up here and speak that I could barely even see. Now I'm a little bit less nervous, so that's good. But I never imagined that just me, one person sharing my story, would turn into the work that has consumed my life for the past 2 years. And for that opportunity and for the opportunity to be in front of you again, I am incredibly grateful. With that, I'm going to get a little bit into my story and my lived experience. So my life growing up was characterized by success. until it wasn't. I grew up as the textbook gifted kid that I'm sure any educators in the audience are familiar with. School was never hard for me. I never had to try. I was put in the talented and gifted program before anybody else in my grade. But the dark side of that is I never learned how to fail. I never had to try. I never did poorly. And because of that, I lacked that most vital skill set, which is knowing when you're wrong, knowing when you're beat, and asking for help. My whole growing up, I thought that it was me. I was the only one that could help myself. And so when that success and when that facade finally crumbled, it happened catastrophically. My freshman year of high school, I was going through a lot. I'm pretty sure every high school freshman is. I was struggling in school for the first time. I had a family member who was in the hospital and then passed away. I was in the midst of a really toxic friendship that was happening to end. And the culmination of all three of these factors happened within 1 week of one another. My grandma passed away, the friendship relationship finally ended, and it was the end of the school period. And it's safe to say that already this was one of the hardest times in my life. But to couple that with the fact that it was a historic snowstorm and we weren't able to leave our house for 8 days led to one of the darkest places I've ever been. I was struggling. I couldn't barely get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to eat. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about hurting myself. I never did, but I was thinking about it, and I was pretty damn close. And what I credit for saving my life and for getting me back on a track to recovery was a conversation that I had with one of my friends. And what she told me is that I don't always have to be strong for myself, that it's not weak to ask for help, and that if I need it, that's not going to make me any lesser of a person. And with that conversation, I was able to work up the courage to tell my parents that I was struggling. And from then on, again, I am a success story. The system worked for me. I talked to my parents. They were supportive. I was put in touch with my counselor at my school. She was supportive. And eventually, after jumping through the numerous hoops of the Hillsborough School District, I was finally put in touch with a care counselor. And even there, I had a great experience. And frankly, this is not the case for hardly anyone. The system doesn't work. I am the exception. I am not the rule. And it's worth touching on why that system worked for me. I have supportive parents. I have access to those resources that we need, be that financial, medical, or even just the ability to navigate the system and have advocates. And frankly, I come from an involved and wealthy white family, and that is the main reason my pain was taken seriously. I have all of these privileges, I have this support, and even with that, I had a hard time going through the system. When I first came forward that I was struggling was January. Because of the administrative and bureaucratic hoops, I was not in counseling until March. Frankly, that is unacceptable. If you're struggling with your mental health, you don't need help 2 months from now, you need help then. And so if the system was cumbersome and untenable for me, coming from this most incredible place of privilege as the quote-unquote perfect victim, it's not going to work for most people either. And as I started to recover and as I started to believe that I could be okay someday, I started to ask myself, how can I leverage my privilege and my experiences to make sure that my peers don't have to suffer in silence anymore? The official figure for mental illness is 1 in 4. That of us will struggle with it someday. But frankly, I think it's more likely that it's 1 in 4 of us that won't. In my generation, almost everyone struggles with their mental health, and almost no one gets help. And so as I got put in touch with Asha, as I'm sure many of you know Gaia 3, it was through a miracle of networking that we got in touch. We host a TEDx Youth Mental Health Conference in Hillsborough. One of my friends gave a speech that I was originally going to give. He met Kathy. Kathy told Gaia 3. Gaia 3 got in touch with him, and then he got in touch with me. It was a typical story. But I was able to be put in touch with this organization of other people who, though we come from different backgrounds, different mindsets, different cultures, and different age groups, I learned I was not suffering alone. And I was given the incredible opportunity to have a platform to share my story in an attempt to break the wall of shame and silence in my community. Broadly, in our work with Asha, we've touched the lives of thousands of students across the region. But on a more personal note, I have helped several others to share their story and start their conversations within my own peer group. One of Asha's storytellers, Jackson Buell, is one of my best friends. He's here tonight. He's over there. So everybody give Jackson a hand. And having the opportunity to connect with both on a systemic and on an incredibly personal level with other people whose stories mirrored my own in a myriad of ways, but were each their own at the same time, has been incredibly inspiring personally and has been incredibly inspiring to our community. As soon as one person speaks up, it opens the floodgates for others. As soon as I had the opportunity to share my story, at my school, the conversation started. In my community, the conversation started. And we can see tangibly the impact that one story can have. And every single person in this audience has a story. And it's beyond important that we have these conversations. And personally, with the opportunity that I've had, it has inspired me to both heal and to help spread healing, to be able to speak up and stand in front of you today, or stand in front of my school, or even simply just stand in front of my group of friends. We have to keep investing in the mental health of the next generation. We have to keep having these conversations because this issue isn't getting better. The issues that are leading to these mental health conditions, whether it's the struggle with climate change or the political world or the impacts of social media, they're not going away. The thing that has to change has to be us. The problem is only getting bigger, and so our compassion and our grace and our support for one another only has to get bigger as well. Much like many other of these pressing issues, the time to act is now. We can see that our time is now, and we can see the power in a single story or a group of stories, or simply a community coming together to acknowledge what's going on. And with your support here tonight, we're ready to keep leading the charge to face this most pressing of epidemics head on. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah and Hoda. Those are the kinds of stories that these students are going into schools and telling. This is the kind of hope that they are giving other students and allowing them to hear so that they are inspired to also get help as well. And that is what ASHA is all about. I want to talk a little bit about our goals for 2020 because as Gayatri said, 2019 was definitely the biggest year yet, but we have bigger and better goals for 2020. And a lot of it has to do with doubling. If you take a look at the slides, we want to double the number of Let's Talk About Mental Health programs in high schools and middle schools from 2,100 to 4,200 students. We also want to double the number of My Story, My Superpower high school clubs. You heard that we just started those. Right now we're at 3. We'd like to get that to 6. And we'd also like to double the continuing legal education programs from 4 to 8 trainings. In addition to that, we also want to refresh a little bit of what we've already been doing. We want to present our annual storytelling show with 10 new storytellers. If you were at the storytelling show this past year, we had 10 incredible speakers, but as everyone who's come up here has said prior, everyone has a story, and we want to find more stories to continue to share and spread that hope. We also want to revamp Grit and Grace Conference with more breakout sessions and other speakers. If you guys were at Grit and Grace just about a month ago, it was incredible. It was funny. It was different. It's a really cool program to be a part of. So we've got lots of goals for 2020. We also want to develop and present continuing medical education programs, starting with 2 trainings. So these are the kinds of programs that supporting ASHA, that your money will go towards. I want to take a second here and go a little bit off to talk about the Student Success Act. We've been covering this very closely at K2. The Oregon school systems are getting $2 billion a biennium to help with education, and pretty much for the first time ever, a specific source of that funding has to go towards mental and behavioral health. And what's different about this is that now these schools, the communities, the students, the parents, they're the ones that have a say in what this money goes towards. So now is the time, this is the planning year for these school districts, for these communities to decide what they want to invest their money in when it comes to mental and behavioral health. And we know and we've seen at ASHA International the impact that our campaigns have had in schools, and we want to continue our outreach to reach those schools. We feel like we are an essential part of helping kids learn how to, one, understand mental health, but two, cope with it. So when we're asking for this money, these goals for 2020, this is a crucial year in Oregon's education's history. And we're asking you guys all to be a part of that. Hoda and Hannah said it best. When ASHA International provides hope, it empowers people to take charge of their mental health and their own healing. Our hope in 2020 is to reach more people in our community than this year. We cannot make that happen without financial support of everyone here. Tonight, our goal is to raise $40,000, and I am so happy to be up here and tell you that we've already raised $20,000 of that, half of that goal, because of some very generous sponsors, so thank you to all those people. But that also means we're halfway there, and we need $20,000 more. Everyone has the opportunity to give and to support tonight, and we're asking you to help us, to help students like Hoda and Hannah and all of our other storytellers. There is no gift that is too small. I know everyone always says that, but we truly believe that. A gift of $500, just for reference, will support one of our My Story, My Superpower high school clubs. Again, we're trying to go from 3 to 6 with that. Your support of $250 covers 2 speaker fees presenting the Let's Talk About Mental Health program for 1 class. So those programs that you just heard, those speeches that you just heard, you could help fund those. And a gift of $100 will provide wellness resources for 50 students participating in the Let's Talk About Mental Health program. There are a few ways you guys can give tonight. The first is if you take a look in those gift bags at the center of your table, there are envelopes for you there. You're welcome to give cash, check, or card. You can fill out your credit card information if you want. We also are updating our system. You can slide your card if that's what you'd rather do. Just go to the checkout table on your way out there, and you're welcome to give on your way out. But what I really want to emphasize tonight, because I know there are a lot of people who work for big corporations here, people who work for Nikes, the Intels, all those big corporations in Oregon. If you know you work for a company that matches donations, please don't give tonight. Instead, pledge a donation. So on that card, write down what you're willing to donate, and then go back to your employer and have them match it. Now, for instance, if you work for Intel, I have this noted here. So if you work for Intel, or you're a retiree, or have a spouse that works at Intel, please make the pledge tonight, but give through your employee portal to double your impact in one step. We encourage you to donate as soon as possible, because Intel will only match as long as it has funds available in the quarter. Now, if you work for Nike, last year Nike did a double match on Giving Tuesday. If you make a pledge tonight, hold on to that a little bit. Giving Tuesday this year is December 3rd, and we'll definitely follow up. So make sure you contact your corporations or businesses to see if they will double your match. Those without an employee match and who want to give by credit card tonight, you can check out with the volunteers, again, at the checkout table. Cash, check, credit card, whatever you want to do. We definitely appreciate all of the support, and we want to say thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for all 199 people in this room. We can't do what we do without your support, your help. These wonderful storytellers can't do what they do without your support and help. So thank you. And I have a surprise for Gayatri. I don't have one, but I'm supposed to present a surprise. I'm going to invite Becca, Yamini, and Hannah back up to the stage because they have a little special something to present. Stay tuned. They're gonna go find it and we'll come back. But in the meantime, you guys just enjoy yourselves. Stay put for a little bit longer. We'll conclude here shortly. Enjoy the conversation again, and we'll rally the troops and come back. All right, we're back. We found the missing piece, and I will let the two of you take over.
So this is just a little something that we all put together for Gayatri because you've done so much for us. I'll give Hannah a chance to talk to you, but this whole, the past 2 years have been, incredibly transformative for me because anyone knows me, I'm not one who speaks about my feelings a lot, or at all. But this whole, just being able to be part of ASHA has not only helped me inspire others, but it's also helped me help myself. Anyone who struggles with mental illness knows that it never truly ends. You're always fighting with it. And so just knowing that I have you, you've really changed my life. So.
I have to say, everyone in this room, there's Gayathri's fingerprints on all of our lives. I know for me personally, I would have never had the courage to say anything, to become anything more than just another face in the crowd if I hadn't met her, and if she hadn't given me the hope and the courage to find my own strength. I still remember the first time I heard your story. I was like sobbing. It was very embarrassing. But hearing her story and the grace and the passion in which she inspires all of us has been just transformative. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who feels that way. And so from me and from everybody and from the community and from the world, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you for what you've done for all of us.
Oh,
My mom, of course. This is my mother.
it takes my breath away, and it's so meaningful to me. And we will have it out at the reception desk, so all of you can take a peek at it. And thank you. Thank you. I remember every step of my journey, from India to America, from the isolation cell at OHSU to the podium today. And when people ask me what gives me the courage or the strength or the sustenance to do what I do, all I have to look is into the eyes of children like Hoda, Yamini, and Hannah, and Jackson, and Natalie, and so many more. You are the reason I wake up each morning and dream of creating a better world. And I truly am so grateful to all of you for being here and sharing the courage of these young women and men, and adults like me too, John and Diane and all of our storytellers. And we can't do what we do without your love and your support. So thank you again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gayatri. All I've got to do is tell you guys to put those checks, money, whatever it is, into the bag, and then take the flowers home. Anyone at your table can take them. They're potted plants, and they're for you to enjoy. And thank you again for coming tonight. We genuinely, sincerely, full-heartedly appreciate all of your support.